Right now, across all industries, all size businesses, we are all coming back to one common problem. You can have the best intentions, the right skill sets, and the right strategy, but it's not equating to growth. Particularly people like me with loads of ideas and I want to do it all. What I'm finding is more powerful is the Welcome to the REV UP Rebellion, the podcast for revenue leaders rewriting the rules of growth. I'm your host, Abbie White. Welcome to today's episode, which is a solo episode. And my topic for today is, again, taking you behind the scenes on the conversations I'm having across all the different businesses I'm working with. And right now, across all industries, all size businesses, we are all coming back to one common problem, which is execution. There is this massive gap at the moment between I know what to do, but do I do it? And it's something on a personal level I can definitely relate to. A little bit like, I know this morning I should have got up earlier, gone for the run, but I didn't do it. And we all kind of come back to that problem. And so from a business context, we can throw more money at tools and systems and training and enablement. But do I do what I know that I should do is becoming the challenge. And at the moment, what I am seeing is businesses and teams are overwhelmed. I believe right now we are in a busyness epidemic. You talk to anyone right now and say, hey, how are you? And typically what I hear back is, I'm good, I'm busy. How are you? I'm busy. I'm so busy, right? And so what we're actually seeing right now is you can have the best intentions, the right skill sets, and the right strategy, but it's not equating to growth because there is this gap between the strategy and the execution. So today, I really want to dive into a couple different highly practical ways that you can bridge that gap between strategy and execution and between knowing and doing. So the first highly practical way to try and bridge this gap is looking at the 4 disciplines of execution. So there are a number of different execution methodologies out there, and I've tried most of them and road tested them. The one that I have the greatest success with for me and with my clients is the 4 disciplines of execution. So when the methodology first came out, it was studied on over 200,000 organizations, and they looked at exactly this problem that we've been talking about. And what they found is you need 4 disciplines to be able to execute amongst the noise. And they found that firstly, the starting point is, what is your wildly important goal? What is your North Star? Where are you driving the bus? Because typically what we're seeing is a lot of conflicting information coming out from leadership and salespeople and teams feeling as if they're running in 5 different directions without clarity on what's the North Star, what's the wildly important goal. Once you've created the wildly important goal, you then look at 2 to 3 sub-goals that are going to help you to get there. And it's about considering what are the fewest battles to win the war. So if you take, for example, a hotel, and a hotel was trying to improve its customer experience, there are a number of different ways that you could improve customer experience. But what their research found was when you have more than 2 to 3 different strategies of how you're going to improve customer experience, your chance of success starts to diminish. And the more goals you have, the less likely you are to actually get a successful outcome. So 2 to 3 was the optimal number. So coming back to my customer experience example, I might say, number 1 under customer experience, I'm going to improve the reception experience. How quickly can you actually check in and what is the quality of that experience? Number 2 might be, how quickly do your bags get taken to your room and what is a positive experience there? And so on. And so you choose what are the 2 to 3 things that will help you to improve your customer experience. And you set a metric. We want to get from X to Y by X date, so that there is a real clarity for everybody on the business on what is the wildly important goal, what are the 2 to 3 bets that we are going to take and we are going to focus on. And so what it does is it brings brutal focus on everyone's time, efforts, and resources. Because if I step back for a minute, one of the biggest conversations I'm having with teams right now is, hey, Abbie, we were supposed to be executing ABC, but since we last saw you, we haven't been able to do any of it because we actually got a change in direction, or we got given other priorities that were actually conflicting. And so by sticking to the 2 to 3 focus areas, we're actually being able to keep ourselves on track. The second for me that I really like when it comes to execution, and I guess it's for myself as a leader, but I also use with my team, is I like using great questions. So one question that I love using, which is a Tim Ferriss question, is what makes everything else easier or irrelevant? So when we're arguing over, yeah, but we could do this to drive growth, or we could do that to drive growth, or maybe this to drive growth, and particularly people like me with loads of ideas and I want to do it all, asking ourselves what makes everything else easier or irrelevant actually really quickly starts to narrow our focus. So that's the first one. The second one I really like is, what would this look like if it was easy? A great question from the book Essentialism. And that question for me has helped us actually when we're overcomplicating something. We were looking at launching a content series amongst us as a team. And when we were talking about it, it was becoming really complex. And very quickly, I realized it was going to take a huge amount of time, effort, resources, money. So we actually stopped and we stepped back and went, what would this look like if it's easy? And all of us as a team committed to going and working on that question and then coming back as a team. And so again, if you look at those questions, it's about going, some of the time we can't execute because it's too complicated, it's too big, it's too difficult, it's too big and hairy. And so actually coming back to those questions and setting those questions for ourselves as leaders and for our team, I'm finding is really helping to elevate our thinking and therefore get a better outcome. The third area that I'm focusing on is speed for first action. So I really want to clarify this. I don't just mean pure speed and executed speed. Yes, absolutely. Right now, speed is important because change is happening so fast. And if you don't act fast, you're going to miss an opportunity and someone else will get it. But what I actually am finding is more important is, what is the speed to taking the first step? So I'll give you a funny personal example on this. I decided ages ago I was going to start our podcast, and very quickly I started overcomplicating it. How do you start a podcast? What do you do? Who's going to listen to it? What on earth? Maybe I shouldn't do it. Oh, not sure I want to do that. And so I decided in my infinite wisdom to take the first step, and I emailed 3 people who I thought would be amazing guests and said to them, hey, I've launched this amazing podcast. It is fantastic. Would love to have you on as a guest. Now, got caught out on this because someone emailed me back and said, fantastic. I'm in your area next week. Let's do it. So after regrouping myself and going, crap, how do you start a podcast? I had to figure it out. If I hadn't taken that first step of invite some people on the podcast, start putting feelers out for people who would have been fantastic guests, to be honest, I don't think the podcast would have ever happened, because I think we would have got caught up in the busyness, or I would have probably talked myself out of it. Now, that's just one of my sort of examples from my world. But what I'm finding, even in the big world of high-end corporate, we talk in a meeting or a strategy session or a kickoff about we are going to do X. What I'm finding is more powerful is the first step will be Y. And how can I do it today? I am trying, and I say trying deliberately, to ban from my vocabulary the words next week. Because our default position is always, that's an amazing idea. I'll do that next week. We should have a meeting about that. Let's do that next week. And so already I've lost 1 week between the time I had the idea and the intent and between me actually acting. And so by bridging that gap and going, here's when I can take the first step, we're finding that execution is stronger, it's quicker, and it starts the momentum, and momentum breeds momentum. So those are a couple different ideas and a couple different practical ways of how you can bridge the gap between great intentions, great strategy, and the execution, but also the knowing and doing gap. I know what to do, but how do I actually bring it to the light of day and actually do it? Again, break it down, keep it simple, start small, start today and not next week. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe and follow so that you get our unfiltered conversations every single week.